I've got something very personal that I'd like to share with you. And it's the first time that I've spoken about this publicly because of the stigma attached. But some years ago, I made a decision to end my life. It was a decision that I took heavily over a period of time, and one which came about after years of unhappiness. Luckily, I was persuaded to seek medical help, and I duly went to the doctors, where I asked to be voluntarily sectioned. Instead, I was put on a care plan, given antidepressants, and offered therapy. I remain grateful for that intervention because it literally saved my life. But it only happened after I decided to talk. And if people felt less embarrassed or ashamed, less worried about their jobs, the reactions of family and friends, more people would feel able to talk. This stigma about mental health needs to end now because it is literally killing people.
Wow. So the key to me, from what I've just heard, is what was it? You used the words, you decided to talk. What was the motivating factor that made you decide to talk?
So I was in a situation where, now that I look back, I'd experienced depression for years and years and years. And depression to me meant it wasn't being sad about whatever, boys, jobs, money, it wasn't sad. It was a ongoing, persistent feeling that no matter what happened in my life, I couldn't shake off unhappiness. And it got to the point where I did not want to be alive. It wasn't a fleeting this and that.
Just stop me if it's getting uncomfortable. What I'm trying to drill down to, what was like the moment of conversion? What was the time that you thought, that's it, I have got to go and see? Was there like a single moment where you thought, a light bulb went on, that's it, I'm going to kill myself, I've got to go and see somebody?
So for me, I never really spoke about what I was feeling because even now I found this, I'm embarrassed, I'm cringing, and it's embarrassing, which is why I want to talk about it. So to answer your question specifically, once into my life wasn't a cry for help. I didn't talk about it, I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't feel able to talk about it. But in my family, my sister had already passed away, and I battled for a long time not to commit suicide because I did not want to hurt my mum by the loss of a second child. At some point when I decided enough was enough, I wanted to die, there was no two ways about it, I felt that I had to go and tell my mum, tell her what I was feeling, tell her what I was about to do, and that there was nothing she could do to prevent it. So I had a trigger to talk to my mum based on family circumstances that meant that I had to. And what I'm concerned about, given that we have a rising number of suicides, and actually it is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, people do not talk about it. They are just going off and doing that.
Can I just say, what you've just done is, I feel a bit tearful actually, I don't know if I can get it out. It's just very brave what you just did.
Thank you.
But, and I think you're right, I think, you know, when I knew you were doing this debate, what I was going to say was I didn't think there was still a stigma attached to mental health in the way there used to be. I think, you know, many years ago people didn't talk about it, but you've just blown that away with what you just said. There obviously still is that we're not actually aware of. And I think people don't talk about it, if I may say. I know you know much more about this than me, but I think what it is, people are scared to say the wrong thing. You know, it's like there are words attached to how you should tackle certain things. There's a great guy who deals in mental health he's called David Krepas K. He's a mental health trust box. He said he wants to reclaim words like mad. Because he said, that's how I felt. And he said, I don't want people pussyfoot. That's how I felt. He said, and he said, I love the mad people in my life. And he said, if people were just less scared about whatever language they used and just talked about the problem, life would be an awful lot easier. And what made you, I know you say you want people to talk about it, but what made you decide to say this? This is a big thing that you just did.
Because there is lots of I've been hypocritical, and you know, there was a campaign that was going on social media last week, and I joined in that campaign going, yeah, there's a stigma about mental health, everybody, we should talk about it, knowing full well that I've experienced problems. But even when I decided to, and I thought long and hard about doing this debate, and shall I talk about my stuff, shall I not? I was told last night by one of my longest friends, oh, yeah, great subject, but don't mention you. And I said, what do you mean? She was just don't mention you.
But also, they're probably thinking that again, this is part of the problem, that they're protecting you.
Yes.
And it wasn't.
No?
It wasn't that she was. I mean, she's my best friend, so I'm not putting her down. It wasn't. She didn't tell me not to talk about me to protect me. She told me don't talk about me because she was saying people are going to look at you, and this is probably a bit of an offensive word, but she was saying they're going to think you're a nut job. They're going to think you're a mentalist. She was saying to me, you're not going to work if you say
that's
these
still
things.
part of the problem, isn't it? And the stigma. I mean, obviously, my background being sport, there's a huge amount of work being done in the sort of mental health side of sport, because I think, from a football perspective, for instance, or cricket or something like that, from a very young age, you're put into a set of an environment that creates a very specific set of sort of controls on you. And I think that people suffer greatly in sport when things don't go wrong, and the pressure and all of those things. There's so many different catalysts for people that have mental health issues, so many different strains. And I think there's a couple of things. One, what you've done, and people like you that are in the public eye that talk about this, I think is absolutely brilliant. It's so brave that you come out and say, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm going through, and look, I'm here to share it with you, in order that people that don't have, I suppose, the resilience that we think everyone has, they can then go and get their help that they need. Nick's point about what the catalyst for you to talk about it and what, the environment that actually gave you that trigger to go to your mum, I think is really important. I really want to see us talking to younger people more about this from a much younger age. There's an amazing guy called James Shon who talks to schools, and I've been at a couple of his talks, and he talks about blowing a child's balloon up and making them sort of confident, protected, so that when they get to their teenage years, they've got this resilience where they feel comfortable about themselves. And we've got to work so hard to give people the tools, young people the tools to deal with these things, so that when there are problems, they've got an outlet where they can stop it.
Do you not think, Graham, that social media, I think for young people now, for teenagers, is death, because they get taunted on there. Girls get they have the mickey taken about the way they look. They're told to take their shirt off and pose, and I just think that has got to be the cause of a lot of mental illness in young people these days. Don't you?
What do you think?
I think what you've got to be congratulated for what you said, which I found profoundly moving. And I've had mental health issues in my family, and it's been out there that my mother was in a mental hospital when I was a little girl. And I can't say it didn't affect me, but it's always been open subject in my family, and I think I'm lucky in that, because I had such direct experience of it when I was 7 or so, and she was in hospital for a year, and that was tough. But I think that the fact that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are attaching themselves to this cause, in a way, tells us actually a bit about what the attitude was towards mental health when Princess Diana was trying to make her way in the royal family, and how that, in a sense, maybe epitomised the British culture then, which was, it was shameful, it was hidden, you didn't talk about it. And actually, if you don't talk about it, it makes it so much worse.
Yeah, and it's not shameful, and it's real. And I imagine that there'll be people watching this that are experiencing different things, and it's hard to speak out, but you absolutely must. It's irrelevant. Doesn't matter if you're old, young, successful, not. Depression is horrible, and if you have been affected by any of these issues we've been discussing, you should get in touch with the Samaritans. You don't have to be suicidal to call them, but whatever you're going through, you can call them anytime on 116123. You can email joe@samaritans.org, or you can visit samaritans.org. Please do that.